honor to introduce today's speaker, Puja Swami Bodhananda ji. Pranam Swamiji. It is my honor to present a brief introduction of Swamiji. Swami Bodhananda ji is the spiritual director, chairman, and Paramacharya of Sambodh Foundation in India and Sambodh Society in USA. Swamiji is the chairman of the Bodhananda Research Foundation for Management and Leadership Studies, a pioneer research establishment on Indian management. In Michigan, USA, Swamiji heads and guides Sambodha Center for Human Excellence, a unique institution devoted to interfaith dialogue, healing systems, and Vedanta. In the past, Swamiji headed Sandeepani Sadhanalaya in Kerala. Swamiji teaches Vedanta, Yoga Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and many other spiritual texts and Indian philosophical traditions. In India, Swamiji has trained many students and guided them to the pinnacle ashram of sannyasi. Swamiji is an avid reader and is well versed with the challenges of the corporate leadership and corporate management phase. Swami is the faculty at several management institutions in India. He gives annual lecture series, courses on topics that bridge management, leadership, and Indian wisdom traditions. Swami is popularly known as Management Guru. Swami's management lectures are sought after in India. He has authored the first ever book on Indian management in 1994. Title is Gita and Management. Swami is the author of several books on Vedanta, spirituality, management, and leadership. For details on Swamiji's work, visit sambodh.us, that is SAMBODH.us. Please join me welcoming Swami Bodhananda ji. Before Swamiji start talking, I have a few announcements to make. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge our partners for this webinar series: Vyasa, LA, Yoga Bharati, Sanskrit Bharati, Heartfulness Institute, North-South Foundation, Federation of Indian Physicians Association, the American Academy of Yoga and Meditation, and Yes Vyasa. If you have any questions during seminar, type them in the Q&A box and we'll address them at the end of the talk. Without further delay, over to you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Anilji. Thank you very much. Thank you, the panelists. And first of all, let me express my gratitude to you for inviting me to be part of the lecture series and giving me an opportunity to interact with the aspiring students of yoga, Vedanta, and all that. And the topic given to me today is on management and leadership, based on Indian wisdom tradition. Management and leadership is a highly valued subject in the Western universities. You have to pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to enter into a university to get a management MBA degree. And but in India, it is not that popular. But India has a very great tradition of managing institutions. There are books are there like Arthashastra, Manusmriti, and Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, and Panchatantra. These are all management texts. How to manage our life in a institution, in a family, in the community, in a corporate world, in politics, and how do you manage the entire ecosystem? And because India is civilization is one of the oldest civilization, so it is worth our while to go into the excavate into the Indian wisdom tradition to get nuggets for management problems and solutions for management problems and leadership problems. And so my task today is to get into this text and then take the nuggets and then present it to you. As Anilji has said, that I have authored a few books on management, like Gita and Management, Indian Management, and 7 Hindu spiritual laws of success. So my talk will be based on these books and my training in Vedanta and all that. So you can refer to those books. Those books are available in the Amazon. You can get hold of those books and then go deep into this subject. Now, the question is that the topic of today's presentation is solutions to problems under constraint. How do you create win-win solutions under conditions of constraints and impediments? How do we do that? That's the question we will be probing in today's lecture. So we know that management is dealing with the people. How do you manage people? How do you motivate them? How do you inspire them? How do you give them a shared vision and make them work toward that vision consistently? That's the management challenge. So people are very, very important. The critical factor in management is the people, not natural resources. Of course, they are important. Not finance, they are important. Not technology, they are important. The people which constitute the organization. We must begin with the idea of who is a person who comes to the boardroom or workplace or factory. So what is the nature of that person? And in the Indian wisdom tradition says, first of all, we have to answer that question. We must have an idea of the identity of the person. Because the person, he or she, is a critical factor. He is a worker and he is a consumer also. The individuals are consumers because it's a consumer-driven economy, as they say. So individual is both a worker as well as a consumer. In Sanskrit language, we say it's a karta and bhokta. As a karta, the doer, the producer, and the bhokta as a consumer. We have to address this individual. So we must have an understanding of the individual. In the West, we find the individual is considered as a monad. Without windows and doors, he is confined to, the individual is a monad, a very extremely and zealously individualistic person, preserving his privacy, and then he doesn't want to others understand or know what are his deeper thoughts, so that he is afraid the other person may manipulate this individual. So the West has got an idea, the individual extremely self-centered and trying to enhance his own self-interest. That's the idea of the individual in the West. Whereas in the Indian wisdom tradition says, every individual has a body, mind, ego complex, which is unique, and which has got a history, which has got a mystery about it. So as a body, mind, ego complex, individual is a karta, bhokta. But at the same time, individual is part of a system. Could be a family, community, corporate, country, environment. The entire universe forms the ecosystem for the individual. He has to get air from the environment, water, food, and warmth, etc. So you cannot conceive of an individual separated from his ecosystem, because he grew up in a family, maybe that parents were fighting or they were drug addicts, so that impacts on the body, mind, ego complex of the individual. Individual also is part of a community. Individual also is a part of the corporate. You are a worker, you are part of the corporate world. Individual is part of the country and environment. So we have to understand the individual as part of a system. That is the Indian concept. And not only that, Not only is part of individual, is part of a system, he has got a transcendental nature about it. In Vedanta, we call it Amrutasya Putraha Shrunbandu. We all are children of immortality. We all have that infinite potentiality, endowed with the infinite potentiality. We can highlight it in different ways, like a cell. A cell can become an entire human being, but the cell specializes, become the bone cell or brain cell or the blood cell, but the cell has the potential to become anything. So individuals have the potential to become anything, and is a field of infinite potentialities. And in Vedanta, we call it, you are Brahman. You are that infinite self. So this is the transcendental nature of the individual. So individual is a three-dimensional entity. As a karta bhokta is body, mind, ego complex. As a functionary in the world is part of the system. So individual cannot in isolation achieve nothing. I have to be in a team. I have to be in the family or a team or the country, community. Then alone I can function. So this puts some responsibility of the individual. Individual has some right and certain responsibilities, which requires education. And from the Vedantic or yoga standpoint, we all individuals are seeking happiness, not simply wealth or power or pleasure or of course, they seek, these are certain things they seek. But overall, the mother desire, the ultimate desire is to be happy. So when the individual come to the organization, don't see him as just a hands and heads. He's a person seeking his happiness, his place in the world, his fulfillment or her fulfillment. But unfortunately, the Western concept of individual is just a pair of hands, pair of legs. He is a tool for profit making. No, individual is the end. He is not a means. So he has to be happy. If you bring an unhappy individual to the workplace, he creates only unhappiness. He creates, he diminishes the efficiency of the organization. So the Vedanta or yoga concept of the individual is the body, mind, ego complex, part of the system, and he has got a transcendental nature, which is infinite bliss. So an individual, he is seeking happiness, but the happiness is not out there. It is in here. It is his real nature. That the individual has to understand. So an individual should come to the workplace as a happy person, not for happiness. So this kind of an idea of an individual is very, very important. He's a unique entity. He has got special skills, special needs, and he's part of the system, and he has got a transcendental dimension. So I will call the individual as a network. Indrajal, as they say. It's a network. He's not a monad. This is an education necessary. Otherwise, they will be seeking happiness, they never get it. They become an unhappy worker, and they bring negativity into the workplace. Instead of energy, they bring negargy. So unless they bring energy, that energy has to come from within himself or herself. Then alone you can create synergy. Then alone you can create high energies. Different levels of energy can be created. Of course, yoga practice will help. So I would say every individual must have a philosophy, the Vedic philosophy, yoga practices, so that he bring infinite energy, enthusiasm, ideas, visions into the workplace. So let us first of all understand what is the nature of an individual. This is something different from the Western concept. And this is also different from the Chinese concept. The Chinese, of course, they accept the individual as part of a system. He's a part of the community. So they won't allow the individuals to stand out. If the individual stands out, then the hammer comes, isn't it? The hammer comes on the nail which stands out. So that's where the China, they are comfortable with the dictatorship, communism, and all that. But the West, it is zealously, extremely individualistic. India combined these two ideas and bring a new value to the individual. He has got a transcendental dimension. So this is the orientation we have to give to the individual when he or she come to the organization, that you are a network. The other person, nature, trees, animals, they all become part of your personality. You have to learn from that. Life is a lifelong learning experience. In the Vedanta, we say, Aham Brahmasmi, you are Brahman. That idea. So this education is very, very important. Otherwise, you get a bunch of unhappy individuals. They create problems. And whatever they produce will be full of misery. They get never satisfied. So this is the orientation we have to give. This should be the part of education. Because whatever you are taught, that you become. If you constantly tell the individual you are a fool, you are stupid, you can't do it, then that's what the individual is. So the first is, let us understand the individuals are a network. With these different dimensions. And the second idea is that management is managing egos. Generally, people say you should not have any ego. Ego is the problem, and therefore suppress your ego or give up your ego and become one with the system. This is not going to work. Not only that, it is dangerous. Because every individual is trying to fulfill his egoistic needs. You cannot suppress the ego. Individual has to express his talents, his needs. He must project to the individual himself. So management is not suppressing the ego, but letting the individual express his identity. Ego is his identity. So that identity is to be unique, identity is to be expressed. And when he expresses his unique identity, he's come into confrontation with the other. So when he comes into confrontation with the other, he understands that I have to accommodate the other's ego also into my scheme of things. This ability to understand his own ego, his own uniqueness, also to appreciate the other individual's uniqueness and his ego, and manage these various egos into a symphony. That is the management challenge. Otherwise, you can preach, you should not have any ego, you should sacrifice for the country, sacrifice for the corporation, sacrifice for the universe, and you can make him a useless person. So you must give him that power, the agency back. Express your idea. It may be wrong, doesn't matter. Be fearless. Then the individual may make mistakes and learn. So this idea that we should be egoless is not a workable idea. It is not a management idea. Let everybody discover their uniqueness, train themselves according to their prakriti, and then the leaders or the manager's job is to manage these egos as they express, like in a symphony. In a symphony, different individuals have different musical instruments, and all of them have to function in harmony. Then you get a symphony or a melody, as they say. Otherwise, it is a monotonous, one instrument going on. There is no variety. There is no flavor. There is no depth. There is no character. So management is not suppressing or eliminating the ego. Management is promoting the ego, its unique identity. So in this context, I may say ego, the worst form of ego is not respecting or accepting the other person's ego. That is the worst form. So then you isolate yourself. You become a narcissist. Then you don't recognize others. Then you cannot function in a team. Team are necessary. So to function as a team, it is only when you function as a team you can bring out your full potential. It's a clash of ideas, clash of identities. In that clash of identities, new solutions emerge. So let us understand, management or leadership is not suppressing the ego or individual expression. It is promoting it, and then it's a big management, it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge for the leader. Leader should understand his ego and understand others' ego also. So if you take ego is in the negative sense, I would say, ego is a lack of appreciation of the other egos. If you take ego in a positive sense, it means your unique identity, that I am a unique person. I have something to contribute, which nobody can do. So that self-importance you have to give to the individual in an organization. Then alone, you are what is called the flourish. So second idea is management and leadership is not eliminating the ego, but organizing, managing the ego. Now, third is how do we manage the egos? Through negotiation, discussion, debate, and come to a position where everybody has their place. Everybody feels belonging to the organization, engaged, contributing. So this discussion, debate, and dialogue, and all these are very important. And the discussion should go bottom up and top down, horizontally, vertically. Discussion should continue. And this I would call the ahimsa mode of organizing people. So you are not imposing, the CEO or the management board is not imposing the idea. Managing, the CEO is trying to inspire the individual to bring out his or her potential. If you suppress the individual, then it becomes violence. Most of the management organization, they have a so-called vision statement. And in that vision statement, it's like a straight jacket vision statement. Everybody has to follow that. No, this vision statement requires continuous upgrading and debate, and then all that are necessary. Otherwise, you will be putting the individual into Procrustean bed, as they say. Then you lose the individual. You kill the golden goose. You may get an obedient servant, obedient worker, but then you become a machine, like a tool, not an individual. So, discussion, debate, respect for irreverent opinions, and strange ideas. So this I would call the ahimsa mode of organization. Himsa mode of organization is imposing your idea upon the other. Ahimsa mode of operation is letting everybody express themselves. And then it's an open-ended architecture of an organization. So organization is inventing, reinventing, reorganizing, rebirthing itself continuously. So that is very, very important, an ahimsa mode of organization. These days we find it's a himsa mode of organization. But if you find the Mahabharata, everybody is allowed to express themselves. Draupadi talks in the war council, Arjuna talks, Bhima, Krishna, Dharmaputra, they all bring different perspectives. So Dharmaputra said this war is unnecessary. It doesn't solve any problem. There have been many wars in this world. And these wars doesn't decide anything, what is right and wrong. So Dharmaputra brings his perspective. Then Draupadi says, no, we have to fight. We have to secure justice. Krishna is listening to all this. Bhima said, if you don't fight, I'll commit suicide. We have to fight. Finally, they agree, yes, war is necessary. Even Dharmaputra. So this kind of dialoguing, is a little uncomfortable. Generally, the leader says, this is it, take it or leave it. Then you get a dead organization. So the non-violent mode of organizing is letting everybody express, interact, and come to a new balance in the organization. So that's the third principle. The first principle is individual is a networked entity. The second principle is you have to organize various egos. They all bring in their own unique ideas into this. So one has to organize these egos. And third principle is when you organize it, it is not by suppressing, but by discussion, dialogue. Sama, Dana, Beda, Danda, all those principles. So I would say a non-violent mode of organizing, your productive activities. After all, what does an organization do? Organization is pursuing certain goals. And when you pursue these goals, every stakeholder should have a place in that. Who are the stakeholders in an organization? You see, the financiers, those who put in money, initial money, banks, financiers, venture capitalists. Capitalist is a stakeholder. Then workers, customers, suppliers, community also stakeholder. Because when you put up a factory and all the effluent goes to the river and the community gets sick, so they object. Or if you don't give a job to the locals, they object. So you may have to give jobs to the locals. That is what happened in Nandigram. Tata helicoptered there and then bought all this agricultural land. A lot of people became unemployed, and then politicians, capitalized on that. So Tata had to pack up and go. Now they learned the lesson. That first of all, you have to go around the community, explain them. At the end of the day, you will be the beneficiary. Initially, there may be few jobs, but there will be ancillary industries coming up. More people will get jobs. So the community is to be taken into consideration. They are a stakeholder. Even the environment is a stakeholder. Because if you destroy the environment, then human beings won't survive. So all these stakeholders are to be taken into consideration, has to be brought into the dialogue, so that at least they have a vision that we have a place in this scheme of things, in this vision. Government is a stakeholder. Even future generation is a stakeholder, isn't it? Your children, grandchildren are a stakeholder in your decision that you make now. So the CEO or the leader or the group of leaders must have this vision before they focus on, quarterly profit and all that. So it is time for us to give a new definition to the idea of profit. Profit can be goodwill. Profit can be the idea of the green products. You bring a new value. So it is time for us to redefine. The profit is the bottom line, of course. If you don't have profit, you have no business to be in business or anything. Even if you teach yoga, you must get some reward, isn't it? So you must have a business model. In that business model, every stakeholder must have a share in the cake. Otherwise, they are going to be a poison in the system. An unhappy stakeholder is a poison, is a weak link in the chain. The continuous negotiation, discussion, respectful discussion is necessary. So true leader is a person who can negotiate. As they say, you get what you negotiate. And that skill, that patience, the capacity to listen. So these days say, a good leader is not the one who gives a speech. A good leader is the one who listens to everybody. Then you become a good leader. And a good leader is one who motivates people to work consistently, systematically, to produce an outcome. Simple idea is not enough. Ideas are dime a dozen. But how do you follow through? For this discussion, debate, and no, we are living in a disruptive society now. New technology, new ideas, and everything is continuously in continuous flux. Your old solution may not work. Not only may not, will not work, because society is moving so fast. So you must be always inventing or innovative and improvising, for which you need ideas. One who sits on the top may not have that innovative ideas. So discussion, dialogue, debate, inviting dissent, all these are important. This is called the ahimsa mode of organizing society. Then another thing is we function under constraints. Government laws and scarce resources and unhappy people. People, may carry problems of the home, or they may have health issues, psychological issues. You don't get perfectly enlightened people into the workplace. They all have their own baggage. So all these are constraints. There's no level playing field also. Some people say if there is a level playing field, everything remains the same, I can function. But nothing remains the same. There is no level playing field. Because capabilities and intelligence is unevenly distributed. So let us not look for a perfect situation. There is always obstacles. Sometimes the current goes, electricity goes, failure. Sometimes there is an earthquake. Sometimes a worker falls ill. There's always this hooligan, some unknown factor interferes and upset the whole apple cart. So therefore, let us understand that we have to function under constraints and produce results. Therefore, the result is a messy situation. So we say it's not a perfect solution. You cannot create a perfect solution. Solutions are always imperfect, provisional, a learning experience. Those who look for a perfect solution, they're crazy, they won't do anything. It's not possible. So therefore, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you can create only optimal solutions, workable solutions. The sloga is, Sarvarambhahi doshena dhumena agnirivavataha. All solutions are imperfect, like fire is enveloped by smoke. There's always some smoke. But there's always somebody who's unhappy. You may not be able to give a perfect solution to everybody. Then you must have a strategy, how to console that person. Sometimes your customer is unhappy, sometimes your supplier is unhappy, sometimes. So how do you, console those people? That's again a leadership challenge. Come down on your knees, ask him, visit your house, give a pat on his shoulder, How is your wife? How is your children? Give a greeting, send a greeting card on that person's birthday. So bring some extra value into these situations. So don't go for perfect solution. It is always imperfect solution. So it's a work in progress. Optimal solution. That's why it is said, a good worksman doesn't complain about his tools. Lord Rama, when Sita was abducted, he was in the forest. He did not know what to do. And his enemy is a formidable Ravana with army and all that. Rama had to manage with his monkeys. He didn't complain. Okay, this is the resource we have. Let me work within it. Let me play with the deck of cards given to me. Don't think of an ideal situation. No situation is ideal. So go for optimal solution, provisional solution. And live with that. Learn from that. That Kaizen concept, bit by bit, step by step, you try to improve. And that improvement has no end. It can go on. So sarvaram bhagidoshena dhumena agniruvakuda. Look at Mahabharata war. At the end of it, only 7 people on the Pandava side and 3 people on the Kaurava side. Everybody, all over dead in a cruel way. But then there's no other way to go forward. So, a good leader, good manager is looking for optimal, workable solutions. And the next idea is a leader should look at everybody as a potential, capable. They should not look down upon others. Everyone brings certain capability into the workplace, regardless of where he comes from, what is his qualification or her qualification. There is a slogan for that. Nasti moolam anaushadam amandram aksharo nasti ayogya purisho nasti yojagaha tattadurlava. There is no plant which has no medicinal value. Every plant has a medicinal value. An expert has to look at that. There is no word which has no power. Every word has got is a mantra. Depends upon how we use it, when you use that word. Similarly, there is no individual who is utterly useless. It is only these useless. Every individual has got skills, capabilities. But a leader identify the individual, give the appropriate training, put the individual in the right place. Otherwise, it will be a square peg in a round hole. So this is a tremendous leadership capacity. Chanakya picked Chandragupta from the street, trained him, made him the emperor. And he built one of the greatest empires India ever knew. Similarly, Rama identified Hanuman. Hanuman was sitting unemployed on the Rishimugachala mountain, doing nothing, playing cards with Sugriva maybe. No mission, no vision, nothing. Not confident about himself, Hanuman. Rama picks him. Do this task. You can do it. But Hanuman was diffident. Then Jambavan has to tell Hanuman, you can do this. This is Rama. With you, Rama and you, nothing is impossible. And Hanuman did. Nobody expected. So this capacity or the respect for individuals is very, very important. There is no bad apple. A good teacher, there is no bad student. A good leader, there is no bad follower. A good teacher, there is no bad student. No bad apple. That should be very, very clear. A leader is the one who can make even a broomstick perform great tasks. Even a blade of grass is a powerful weapon for that person. He will call him, do it, and it will be done. Like Christ said to this fisherman, I'll make you fisher of men, not just fish. Like Rama said. So this is the leader's capacity. So another thing is, a good leader will go to the last and the least and the lost in the organization. He may not praise the top-notch people. His healing touch for the last and the least and the lost. That's how he galvanizes the organization. Like Lord Rama again. When they were building the bridge from the continent into the island, Lanka, huge monkeys lifting huge stones and rocks and trees and dumping onto the work site. Then little squirrel, tiny squirrel, he also comes, joins, participates. The monkeys were, what this person is creating a disturbance. It comes into our under our feet. So they have to work around it. But the squirrel was very enthusiastic. He will go to the seaside and wet himself in the sea and then roll on the sand, and then some sand will stick onto him, and he'll run to the work site and dump that sand there, grain of sand. He's contributing his share. Monkeys were, sniding at you. What is he doing? This squirrel. Lord Rama saw him, called him, come here. Patted on his, oh, you are doing a wonderful work. Without you, this bridge would not have come up. Monkeys were laughing. This guy did nothing. But that's very inspiring. Because every cell in the organizational body is important. Every cell. One cell is cancerous, then the whole body suffers. A leader knows that. So that's the next principle of wise leadership. You care and concern for the last and the lost and the least in the organization. And finally, the leader is the one who said the buck stops here. I swallow the poison. Like Shiva, that churning of the ocean of milk. They were all expecting the nectar, but before the nectar comes the poison. No taker for the poison, because failure is a orphan. Success is a several fathers. When the poison came, everybody, how will you deal with that? Shiva comes forward. You cannot throw the poison on someone. What do? You swallow the poison. But Shiva did not get poisoned in the process. Similarly, a wise leader will say the buck stops here. I swallow the poison. And when I swallow the poison, it become a beauty spot around your neck. This is leadership. The good reward, the good things he shares, the bad things he swallows and convert it into nectar and wisdom. So if you follow these 7 principles of leadership, you can create successful organization and create win-win situation where all stakeholders are optimally happy and they are on the way to very successful win-win. They can create win-win solutions. So thank you very much. And that's all what I have to share with you. There are a lot in the wisdom tradition. I would recommend you Panchatantra, Manusmriti, Ramayana, Mahabharata, Arsashastra in your management. There are nuggets of management leadership solutions, ideas in these books. I would recommend some of you take one book, study, and write a PhD thesis on this one book, Management Ideas. And if somebody comes forward, I can give a grant of 25,000 rupees. But you must produce a PhD quality paper. You can study on management, Bhagavad Gita or Mahabharata, Manusmriti, even Manusmriti. Though Manusmriti very much revived that, caste system, all that. Manusmriti has got nuggets of great ideas. To take one of these books, create a PhD quality paper, then I can give you 25,000 rupees. Not dollars, please. Don't misunderstand me. 25,000 rupees. So thank you very much.
So there's some compliments to Swamiji. Lata Vasan says, wonderful explanation of ego. And she says, quality of a good leader and teacher. And she says, she thanks Swamiji for very nice examples and well explained. Your talk made her think and walk through place in my workplace and understand situations. Okay, so these are some of the comments. There is a question from Raji. The question is, Swamiji, how does Vedanta place the individual in uncertain, turbulent conditions that are constant, as you call it?
Vedanta welcomes uncertainty, because when you encounter uncertain situations, then you have an opportunity to go deep into yourself, move away from your memories, old solutions. You're looking for new solutions. For new solution, you have to go deep into your consciousness, because you are stunned, you have no solution, you don't know what to do. Then you become contemplative. You can become reactive also. One problem is you can become reactive, the flight and the fight response. But if uncertainty is too much, then even that is not possible. So you become stunned and thought-free, and then you dip into your dimensions, spiritual dimensions, and from there you are invoke new solutions. The source of new solution is not memory or analysis. The source of new solution is the spirit and meditation. And the meditation happens when you are confronting a insoluble problem. There is no solution for that. You cannot read books or you cannot consult. But consultants also are giving you the old solution. They are no more work. And they give the solution to everybody. So there's nothing new in that consultant's solution. So for the innovative solution, you have to observe, go deep into yourself, the spirit answer. That's why you call him a spirited manager or spirited leader, because he invokes the solution from that dimension. So a good leader invokes or embraces uncertainty. He is not running away from uncertainty. They are not looking for certainties. And for your information, there is no certainty in the world. The world is always uncertain. The world is constantly changing, which is the meaning of Maya. Maya means things are constantly changing. So you better embrace it, otherwise you will be burgeoned by it. The juggernaut of change will crush you down. And so you better embrace it, run with it, roll with it, and rock and roll, as they say. Then we will be able to go into the depth and find solutions. So it gives an opportunity to move from the memory, the memory to the spirit, from history to the mystery, and you can awaken that spirit. So you create history rather than you just follow what others have been doing. So embrace uncertainty, and I guarantee you will get the solution when you embrace. There'll be initial fear. I have no solution. I don't know what to do. But when you embrace it, challenges, confront it, then the universe will open up for you. Your spirit will speak through you as a solution. Yes, that's my answer.
Thank you, Swamiji. Next question, Arun Jain asks, what is the order of stakeholders according to our wisdom, tradition, or dharma? Today, it is the capitalist or shareholders who are the biggest stakeholders. Is that the right way to run our nation or societies?
It keeps on changing. When you start a business, you need a capital, isn't it? And when you put in capital, you need workers. When you have the workers, you need the customers. Then to produce things, you need suppliers. So you cannot say that one factor of production is important. They are important at different times. So our ability to understand what is important at what time, at what stage of your development, that's very, very important. Now, we have been giving a lot of importance to capitalism because we were forming, the capital is very important. Technology is very important. Once upon a time. So now we are moving into a stage where more stakeholders have to be taken into consideration. So if you don't the capital, what will you do? That is your oxygen. So you have to take care of them. They must get their due. But the capitalist is to be convinced, explain to them. If the worker is not happy, your capital will not have any ROI. Isn't it? Workers should be happy. Workers should be taken care of. The customer is not happy, you don't get a return for your investment. So it's a matter of discussing with the shareholder and tell him you have to take into consideration all stakeholders, and this all at different times you have to emphasize, highlight. Initial stages, you have to highlight the capitalist, then the worker, then the customer. So this is the leader's job again, to understand what is most important at a given time. If there is no technology and capital, what is capital? Capital is saved labor, isn't it? You save labor, then you accumulate capital, and managing capital requires skill. Everybody cannot manage capital. Soviet Union did that. They handed over the factors of production or the factory to the workers. Workers don't have the skill. So they messed up the whole thing. Soviet Union collapsed, imploded. So, but there is a problem with overemphasizing capital. Then wealth accumulated in 1% and 99% is, less wealth, and they're unhappy. Then that is another problem. So it will become counterproductive. So if you can discuss these things in a calm, quiet environment, capitalist, your interest lies in taking care of the interest of the workers, because everybody is pursuing their interest. So workers' interest will be taken care of, consumers' interest will be taken care of, environment industries will be taken care of. And for that also capital is necessary, because new technologies, green technologies, dematerialized products. There is a concept of dematerialized product. Because you use less and less material to produce more and more things. For example, a modern cell phone, it contains in itself, in that little space, lot of function, which different instruments did before. This is called dematerialized green production. So I cannot say which is more important. All are equally important, but you give different emphasis to different factors of production at different times. That's a leadership job. You cannot put the leader into a box. He has to think out of the box, isn't it? So different times you have to give different. Sometimes you have to pander to the capitalist. Sometimes you have to pander to the labor. Sometimes you have to pander to the customer. That's it. You have to be nimble-footed to do all these things. Then alone you become a good worker, a good leader. Yes, next question.
Thank you, Swamiji. There is a comment from Rajni Garg. She says, very thought-provoking talk. I'm doing a home project, and your talk has really helped me understand how to manage all involved individuals in this project. I like the concept that no solution is perfect, and also how a good leader embraces uncertainty. In parentheses, she mentioned Maya, and she said, "Thank you, sir. Thank you." And then Lata Nair, she says, "Thank you, Swamiji. It is very encouraging to listen and reflect on your explanation regarding facing uncertainty, especially during these days. Thank you." So Venki Venkatesh asked a question, Swamiji. Please quickly list the 7 principles of leadership.
Today's presentation, that's what you want?
No, he's just saying the list 7 principles of leadership.
Yeah, that's what I said. The first principle is the individual is a network. That is the first principle. So we have to understand individual as not a monad. Monad means, just an isolated individual. Is a network. And so when you look at let's say shop floor worker, your handyman, your man Friday. So he also is as spiritual as you are. He is Brahman. Isn't it? Aham Brahmasmi is applicable to even that person. That scavenger also is Brahman. So that idea you must give him. And it's a challenging, because the leader generally looks for manipulating, condemning, putting followers into a box. So it is easy to control that person. So leader should not be a controlling person. Leader is an inspiring person, motivating person. Say, you can do that. So the first principle is understand the individual who constitute the organization as Amrutasya putraha shunnundu. Don't we say that? That is the Indian tradition. That's what Indian tradition says. First principle. Second principle I talked about, there are many stakeholders pursuing their own interest. Capitalist is pursuing her own interest. If he doesn't get interest for his capital, then he will park it somewhere else. If you give him 0 interest and somebody gives him 7% interest, he'll park his capital there. You cannot help it. Or you can say, I will put you in prison if you don't put money here, then he will not create more capital. That's it. You have to encourage. So second is understand that everybody is pursuing their own interest, which I call ego. And in the process, they are contributing their own unique skill sets also. So you have to understand that this organization is made up of different stakeholders, and we have to take their interest into. There are some core interests which they don't compromise. If you don't address that core interest, this person is going to leave your organization, or he becomes a negative factor, and he becomes a cancerous cell in the organization. The whole organization will suffer. So understand that. So it's a symphony of different egos, different interests. Have you seen that symphony? One man stands and then uses the stick. He does this, does that, and all that. That's his job. And makes everybody function. The third principle I talked about, the ahimsa model of management. How do you organize? It is through discussion, listening, letting people to express themselves. You may agree, you may not agree. This is called the ahimsa model of organizing institutions. And when you do this, the outcome will be optimal, not perfect. That is the third principle. Optimal solution. This is called the constraint we are talking about. You are not getting a person of your choice. You are getting a person and you have to address his interest or her interest. So the fourth principle is the solutions are all optimal, provisional. It is all a learning experience, and you can only be the best of the pack. Somebody said 2 friends were running away from a bear in the forest. Suddenly they spotted a bear. So they picked up their sneakers and then started running. And then one person in the mid of as he was running, he stopped and he started putting his sneakers on. Then the other person said, you fool, the bear is chasing you and you are sitting and then putting your sneakers on. The bear will catch you. He said, no, it will not catch you. It will catch you because put the sneakers on, I can outwit you. I can outrun you. See, so if you can only create optimal solutions, not perfect solution, not this solution. You can create only a solution. So that's the idea we have to understand. And the third principle is nobody is useless. Nasti moolam anaushadam. There is no bad apple for a good leader, for a good student, or a good teacher. That's it. Then, I give you the example of Hanuman. Then respect the last and the least in the organization. Go down to him, sit on his knees, pat his shoulders or her shoulder. Then you become a very effective leader. The squirrel example I gave. And then the buck stops here. These are the 7 principles, sir, which I was talking about. And he very efficiently summarized it. I don't know whether you heard it or not. So this is the third time you are listening. From me first, then Anil, again from me.
Thank you, Swamiji. Every time you list, it'll go deep down into our memory, right? So it will emphasize and it'll make it a foundation. Okay, Swamiji. Next question is rather 2 parts. One is a comment and the second part is question. This is from Ashwini Surpur. Swamiji, people see spirituality is for the weak and old. My son once commented, Mom, get a life when he saw me engaged in yoga. Now, she's asking, how do we convince the youth?
How do you convince the group? Yeah. So he will have to watch you. If he says you are weak, then you don't buy into his idea. If you buy, he is trying to control you. He's trying to control you by saying you are weak and trying to convert you into his lifestyle. So don't buy into that comment. You be a role model and make him see that you are strong. And spirituality is not for the weak. Spirituality is for the strong to make them stronger. And spirituality is the foundation of material life. Matter doesn't matter actually, but matter is the spirit. So give him that philosophy. But the best way of educating him is to be a role model. What he must have seen, your hypocrisy. You practice yoga, but you are, scribbling, screaming, shouting, and you cannot tolerate dissent and difference. And then you want to bring him to his, Procrustean bed. That's why he saw some hypocrisy in you. You are not a role model. If you are a role model, if you put light a lamp, the light, spreads all over. So be a role model, then he will learn from you. That's the best solution. There is no point in trying to give a speech to him, a long speech. Be an integral, walk your talk. Then he will or she will understand it.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji. Santosh Kumar Vetsa asked a question. Manu Smriti, Artha Shastra. I'm not sure what the question is. Can you please elaborate on the name of the book? I don't understand the question, Swamiji, here. Because he says Manu Smriti, what is the name of the book? Can give some name of the book, Artha Shastra. Anyway, his next question is,
maybe the books I mentioned was Manusmriti, Arthashastra, Panchachandra, Ramayana, Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Sutra.
Okay. All right.
So if somebody can produce a PhD level paper, I can give him 25,000 rupees.
Okay.
I have to send it to me. It will be peer reviewed, and then you will get it. Be simply writing a hodgepodge book, thesis, you will not get the money. Not only that, I will charge you for wasting my time.
So I hope somebody will take this challenge, Swamiji.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's again, Santosh Kumar Vetsa is asking a question. how do we can apply today's session teachings on leadership to apply to a current family structure? In an American family with husband and wife plus 2 or 3 kids, some are 25 to 20, 23 to 25 years old, and some are 15 years old. How do we apply these today leadership class teachings and what we should get from your learnings?
Is it an Indian American NRI family, Indian American family, or a white American family you have in mind? If you have in mind an Indian American family, when somebody studied in India, migrated to America, got a job,
It is
then
Indian Americans, Swamiji, Indian NRI family who
NRI.
migrated here. Yeah.
So your children are born here, brought up here,
Yeah.
and they go to university, the school, and here the education system is to make you think, not to obey. That's the education system here. In India, our education system is to make you obey authority figures, parents, gurus, and leaders, and scriptures, and God, and so continuous obedience, what they are teaching. In America, it is disobedient. You think yourself. You receive stimulation from the world, sensations, and process it in your own way and pursue your path, your unique path. This is what the system teaches here. It is a critical thinking, what they are teaching. And your ability to present your point of view and then listen to the other person. And if you disagree with him, say that I disagree with you and stick on to your point. This is what they are teaching here. So there is some disconnect between the memory that we carry from India. We expect our children to touch our feet and say yes to whatever we say, but these children are not taught like that. So there is a disconnect between what they are educated, given in the college or the university or the school, and what we expect from them at home. So first of all, you should know you are living in a different culture, right? So you have to educate yourself, the parents, how to deal with the situation, how to deal with critical thinking. Critical thinking means you criticize, you critique, not criticize. The criticism and critique is wrong, different. Critique means you see the plus and minus points of a thesis or a proposition. That is what criticism is all about. And all propositions have plus and minus points. So we have to learn the art of critically analyzing our assumptions and prejudices and biases and propositions. So that ability, as a parent, if you cultivate, you will be able to engage in a creative or profitable discourse or discussion with your students or your children, whether they are grown up, whether they are teenagers, whether they are babies or children. So we have to engage in a dialogue with this. Don't think that you know everything. We don't know, because we are living in a new environment in the United States with the Constitution, which gives freedom to every individual to express themselves, even to burn their national flag, isn't it? Here you can even burn your Star and Stripe. In India, you cannot do that. They will be put in prison. Here you can do that. You can question everything. So develop that skill set. Then you can engage in a dialogue with your children, your spouse, your neighbors, your colleagues. So as a family, in a family, how do you apply this principle? You have to engage in discussion with your children, your wife. Ask them, what would you do? If you were in my position, what would you do? What's your idea? What should be cooked today for breakfast? So the son will say, Dad, I need pizza. The daughter will say, I need a smoothie. The wife will say, I need a chapati, because she also coming from India. If you're an American wife, then you have had a problem. So they all will bring their menu on the table. Then you have to discuss, and it is a laborious process. It's a laborious process. So to cut it short, what do we do? This is what is cooked, eat it or leave it, or, take it or leave it. That's not going to work in American system. That then I am leaving. So engage in a discussion and also understand, bring our karma theory. Every individual coming to this world to pursue his destiny or her destiny. We are fellow travelers, whether your wife and children and all that. So I would say, engage in discussion, respect your children, respect your wife, give them agency and identity. Let them say what they want, who they are, because they are individual. They are bringing their own karmic destiny into this world. They came through you, not from you. Please understand. Your child came through you. You are only a door for them to walk into this world. When Manu says that up to the age of 7, you can, lalanam, taranam, and all that, then they become your friends. You have to discuss. So bring this culture of dialogue into the family and respect your wife and children. Then you create a win-win situation. And not only you grow in the process, you also grow in the process. As a father, you learn, isn't it? Your son is your teacher. Just as you are a teacher to your son, he also teaches you. So that the critical thinking, culture of dialogue, and allowing these individuals to grow in their own unique ways, that is what you should do. Then you can create healthy, happy, growing, learning families. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji. It's real challenging to cover such an extensive and vast topic in short time. And I wish we had more time, but I think we have to end the session here. And really appreciate for taking your time. It's already close to 9:15, 9:20 for you in East Coast. And thank you for taking your time. And just you came from India, and I'm sure it's quite late for you. So again, I appreciate and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anil.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prasadji. Thank you,
Thank you.
all of you. Best wishes. Adieu.
Thank you. Thank you so much.